Me, as a recovering perfectionist, I used to make like huge and realistic goals, and when I did not meet them, I would be very disappointed that I could not maintain them, and then I start seeing myself as less than, as a joke. You cannot be perfect at something you're starting out. Okay, it's like the more you are consistent, the more you improve, the better you become, right? Right. So I used to think that being disciplined meant waking up every day at 5 a.m., having the perfect routine, and always feeling motivated. But that mindset really kept me stuck. Okay, having discipline and building real discipline is by doing small actions repeatedly, consistently over time. Right. Now, there was a period of my life where I felt like I was completely disconnected with myself. Okay. I started things and I did not finish them. I procrastinated things a lot. I was feeling mentally drained. I was starting things and, you know, I just did not have the bandwidth to follow things through. I could just gather enough motivation to start them, and after that, I did not have the discipline to keep them and even to be consistent. So, and eventually, I realized I did not need to change my life and my entire life overnight. I just needed to start small, right? One small habit that which is common and we hear it every time was I started just making my bed immediately I got out of my bed, right? And that small habit, in as simple as it sounds, it created momentum. Okay, just completing one task, during the first hour of your day creates a momentum, and you feel like that discipline has already followed, is already picking momentum. Okay, that small win will carry me into doing something else and completing it, something else and completing it, and that way I felt like I was more. It shifted my mindset to be more focused and to be more purpose driven. Like, as soon as I get my bed ready, I'm ready to take a shower, and once I do my shower, I want to do the next thing and complete it. And that small habit really created a momentum for my morning, and I made that. I used to wake up and I'll do my bed like later after I've showered and whatever, but nowadays it is the first thing I do. So, as I'm off the bed, I make my bed, then I go out, brush my teeth and do other things, and that way I carry that momentum throughout my day, and that way I get to achieve more. I get to focus more, and I get to be more consistent with my things, because that small win in the morning has made a way and has set my mind in a way that I'm focused on creating more small wins throughout my day, and that has really kept me more disciplined. Right now, another small habit was spending less time on my phone. Okay, one thing that was quietly affecting me was I was constantly scrolling, I was constantly consuming more than I was creating, and comparing more than I was focusing on my life. And you know what kind of feelings that brings? You start feeling like you're behind, and more often than not, you feel like you don't want to put effort in your life. You feel like you're losing hope. Start feeling depressed. Now, so when I started becoming more intentional with my screen time, less mindless scrolling, more presence, and more actual focus on my life, things things are peaking, things are getting motion, right? And I advise less scrolling, especially soon as you get out of your bed in the morning. Just do real stuff. Avoid your phone like for the first hour of your day. That way you start to break that bad habit slowly by slowly, and then you'll get the momentum, and then you'll get the discipline, right? Okay. So another thing was creating a slow and a quiet mornings for me. I realized that my mornings were really shaping up my day, my entire day. So instead of just waking up and checking my notifications and scrolling on the feed already, I'll stop and I'll pray. I'll create time and pray and journal and sit quietly, of course, after I've showered, because if you sit quietly immediately, you'll just fall back asleep. You'll fall back in your bed and go back to sleep, right? So I do that after I've showered, after I've washed my face, done my morning routine. Then I'll sit down and quietly just meditate on God's word. And honestly, those quiet mornings have really provided me a clearer mind, and I've been more grounded ever since, right? So please try that. So another thing is I started keeping small promises to myself, okay? Me, as a recovering perfectionist, I used to make like huge and realistic goals. And when I did not meet them, I would be very disappointed that I could not maintain them. And then I started seeing myself as less than, as a joke, But now I changed that into focusing into small promises, okay? When I say I'm going to work for 20 minutes, I work for 20 minutes. When I say I'm going to finish a task, I do it and I finish it. Okay. And that way I've been able to build self trust. And when you build self trust is very huge, a huge part of discipline. Okay. When you trust yourself and you know you're going to do it, you will not struggle with discipline. It will be part of you. You feel like I am that person, I am the woman for the job. So I'm going to do it. And you will do it, right? And another thing which I think is very vital is I changing the way I spoke to myself. Okay, I realized that I was constantly speaking negatively to myself, calling myself lazy, telling myself that I'm behind. Okay, and by the way you speak to yourself matters. Okay, discipline grows better in encouragement than in shame. So instead of saying I'll never change, okay, just say I'm learning consistency one step at a time. Okay, speak to yourself like you are on bestie. You cannot produce good if you're constantly putting yourself down. And if that's how you talk to yourself, change that, tune that out. We learn those things from our environment and the people who brought us up. Maybe you were brought up in a household where negativity was more spoken into you. You have to do that inner work and you have to change that internal dialogue into something that is positive. Speak to yourself like your own baby. That way you'll be more encouraged. That way life will not feel like it's hell and doom. You'll be even more motivated to be even more disciplined because you feel value from just how you speak to yourself and how you see yourself, okay? Now, another thing is focusing more on progress than perfectionism. And oh my God, I suffer from this so bad. I'm actually unlearning perfectionism, okay? One thing that delayed my growth for so long was perfectionism, okay? I thought if I could not do something perfectly, then there was no point starting it. And with that, a lot of opportunities, a lot of things that in fact, there's a lot I can do, but that perfectionism part really pushed me back. Okay, but discipline is not about perfection. It's about showing up consistently. Even if it's imperfect, even on low energy days, even when motivation disappears, you still show up. And that showing up is what builds internal self trust, which builds discipline. And that way, the more you do it, the more you get perfect. You cannot be perfect at something you're starting out, okay? They say that eventually hard work will beat, talent. And I don't say necessarily hard work, it's just showing up, being consistent. The more you are consistent, the more you improve, the better you become, right? So ditch the perfectionism and focus more on progress, right? And another point which I cannot leave out is reconnecting spiritually. And honestly, I feel like anything level up, if you're trying just to level up as a person, you cannot do it by yourself. You need God by your side. Spending time with God has made me more calmer, more intentional, more emotionally balanced because being disciplined is not just physical, it's emotional and it's mental too. You cannot perform if when you are emotionally scattered. You cannot perform if you are mentally exhausted. You need something to calm you down. And we are humans. We need to charge. You see how you plug your phone to the socket is how you plug yourself to your creator, and you have to source that energy, you have to source that strength, that balance that you need, that calmness, so that you can think clear thoughts, and you can move forward from a place of wholeness and from a place where you are whole, not scattered, right? So if you're struggling with discipline, I just want to remind you that you don't need to transform your entire life overnight. Okay, you just need to start small. Those small insignificant habits, that one small routine, one small habit, that one kept promise to yourself. Because small habits, they may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time they completely change who you are. Okay, so if this video has resonated with you and if you struggle with discipline, comment consistency, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Help your girl, support your girl. Let's get to 50 subscribers, okay? See you on the next one.